before hopping back up as well. I'll be real, when I look at Pixie and Cheating, I think to myself, this is a team that has that talent, and I think both of them in different teams in the past have showed us that talent, but I've never seen things click, right? I've never seen the sort of ending I would have wanted to see from either of them, and so a win there in Game 5 is really nice.
Cool, calm, collected. Pixie in those last moments as well. In the 1v1 engagement from the first shot up above, the jumping off as his builds got destroyed, kept tracking his opponent, landing that big shot to secure the VR. It looked great.
Let's see how great the leaderboard looks right now, because there'll be a lot of teams eyeing it up and saying, where are we sitting with one game to go? Of course, it's all said and done. We talk about last chance major, last chance game coming up. But here's the leaderboard. Not too much movement. I'm sure that a lot of teams will be relieved about that, Levin.
Yeah, but look how tight it is, man. 7th, 8th, 9th, 2 points in it. And then even Lucian Steno in 10th, 2 points away from that. It is going to be manic going into that last game. Like, it's... Oh, wow. I'd be so scared if I was any of those teams there.
Oh, yeah. Even looking at Steno and Lucy in 10th place. Just one placement off global championships. But also, Janice Reason up in 7th place. Bumped 4 placements up to get to where they are here with 182 points. But they cannot be feeling safe because they're just 2 points off of the qualifying range.
Yes, it's impressive, Levin. I mean, this is a team that we've seen popping off. It looks like they're starting to get to a position where it's guaranteed, but they still have got to pull out one last, big-time performance.
It's the Reason clutch. I'm saying it, right? If you've been around EU Fortnite for a long time, there always used to be, back in Trio specifically, right? Reason would always just have a crazy clutch game where you're like, oh my goodness, this guy's one of the best players in the world. And I feel like we've activated that now. Towards the back end of the competition, Reason is just in his element. You're seeing all these limbs just going his way. It's the clutch time, and these guys are stepping up.
They got work to do, though. They still got a bit of work to do.
They have got work to do, and you're right. This is where you see you test the mettle of yourself and your duo here, Levin. We talk about clutch time. This is heavy drama at this stage, and if you're not, and we've got some teams that are just in touching distance of the top 9. It's all still to play for. You've got to find that extra edge going into game number 6.
You do. I think it's not easy for any of those guys, right? Because you go into that game and there's no room for error. Because you don't want to leave it in another team's hands, right? You want to be able to be the team that is, directing the pathway and setting your own history. Looking at the people just outside of that even, right? The 11th to 20th, 12th, Debut and Vexy moving way up after that really impressive game. They're another sneaker team that they have a big game. A couple of those teams are in, slip up a bit. They very much have a chance.
Look, it's really so close right now, not just in the top 9, but like you said, on the second half of that leaderboard, 10th all the way to 15th, 16th, they are not far at all to being in qualifying range. One more game like the game Debut and Vexy had here from any of those duos is going to be enough to qualify them for the Global Championships. So going into the last match, not only in the last qualifier, the last opportunity for Global Championships, but the last match in the last qualifier, that these players have to give it their all.
Oh man, let's take a look now at 10th place, Steno and Lucy. This is phenomenal as well, because you've got that 5-point jump and everybody above them looking right down at them, Levin.
Yeah, I think when you look at Steno and Lucia, they're definitely the kind of team where most people predicting their top 9s coming into today probably would have had them in there somewhere, right? Because they are a team with pedigree, they are a team with history in EU competitive Fortnite, and they're a team that has shown that, at LAN's in-person events, they can be successful. And so, definitely kind of team I'd want to see make it to Globals, but again, need another game just like this one. They've been on the outside all day, it's really felt like, but again, that late push to try and surge their way in. They're not many points out, only a couple points in it. They need to have another one of these kind of games.
I know you're like a football fan, right, as well, Evan, and I want to talk about the comparisons between like relegation, but you've got teams right under there beneath you, so it's like both sides of the barrel. It's a strange juxtaposition of being at the bottom of that top 9. Let's take a look at Resguard as well, Evan.
Yeah, look, and on the point of relegation, it's a brilliant point you make, Ian. when you are in a relegation battle, the motto, the thing that is always said is you just have to get the points on the board. You can't worry about what anybody else is doing. It's not in your control. You can't do anything about it, right? If you are Lusher, you can't worry about what Janice is doing. It doesn't affect you. Get the points on the board. The same applies for Trip and refs. They just have to get them points on the board. They are a team more than good enough of making it to the Global Championships, right? You know, these guys have pedigree, they have experience, and I feel like this game that we saw from them just now, it's almost a repeat of a lot of the games we've seen. If I told you this was a clip of Trippin from game 2, you'd believe me. You would. It looks the exact same as some of the things we were seeing earlier, right? So I want to see them now get past that point, right, where we're seeing them scuffed in the back of the zone. They have to push past, get the points on the board.
This is crazy. Listen, one game could potentially separate you from a shot at winning the Global Championship. It all comes down to this. Game number 6 of the Last Chance Major. One last roll of the dice. Casters, Shayo Taka, lead us through it.
Appreciate you so much, Ian, and our wonderful analyst, of course. But Shayo, this is quite the predicament. I mean, if you are not in that top 3 currently on the leaderboards, there is only one game left to work with, and so many teams so close to overtaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's anyone's game at this point, and everyone who's kind of next to each other on the boards are next to each other in game as well, making the same type of fumbles here and there inside the zone. So this is where it's your time to clutch that ball, make it all the way across the line, and qualify for globals.
And look, it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, but I know for a lot of these teams, that's what they're striving for. But we've got the battle bus ready to go. Game number 6. It's time for the last match.
One last chance to get towards globals. Everyone talks about if it was me in that spot, if I just had one more shot to take, if they just played that game again, they'd do something differently to get them to where they need to be. Well, this is the game where you get to prove that 100% for real.
It's also crazy when you think about it, because just like Levin mentioned, you can't think about what anybody else is doing. You have to focus exclusively on your own gameplay. And Giannis and Reason, certainly a team we've been keeping very close tabs on here today. They've finally managed to break their way into that top 9. But again, holding on to that positioning for teams in 4th through 9th is where things get a little bit more tricky.
Those definitely. You want to hold on, and you also have some teams that want to get all the way up and surpass that 9th place spot. Howley in trouble. Top 3 should hold for now from what I'm looking at. So they should be good, but they can hold on to play a little bit longer in this game if Howley's online like that. That's just crazy.
Not the first time today. Might not be the last either that we see Howley with a nice pop-off play here. Certainly feeling pretty good about that one based off the reaction of the player cam, and can't blame him, because again, when you're already in that top 3 position and you're just doing everything in your power to make sure you maintain it, it's always nice when you take fate into your own hands. And for F9, Moneymaker, they're dealing with the likes of Pumps. One knock already, but they still have to close it out. F9, Moneymaker, they know it's not going to be the easiest engagement in the world, but it is one that Moneymaker will successfully finish off those 2 elims with. So they will also continue to maintain their spot in the top 5.
They're looking good. They're looking fine. If I'm heading Vask, I'm worried. I'm looking to see what's happening next. 198, they just need a little bit more to really break through and be in a safe spot to stay inside top 5. It feels like and looks like everyone else is looking good. I would say around 200, 205, maybe 210 points should be good compared to the rest of the board. You never know how crazy things get, though. Propsy with a few elims off spawn, one of them being Savage is fully confirmed. Got to tune in and see exactly what's happening on that side. These guys are pretty free at Naughty Nets. There's a bunch of other players, too, that are really looking at getting their spot up towards that top 9. Yep, go Paco. 11th place overall. But they're consistently struggling to stay in 10th and 11th. They have to make this an insane type of game that they haven't really played today at all to get towards that super top side, to get towards, you know, maybe a top 5, top 3 finish, get them inside that top 9.
We'll elaborate more on that in a second, because for right now, refs, Trip, they're just trying to keep their hopes alive. In the current early engagement here up against Astral, Allizen, they've got to be careful. Refs and Trip don't want to find themselves getting elim this early on. Remember, they're currently in 15th place. They need a pretty big performance here if they want to escalate themselves into that top 9 of the leaderboards. And it starts right here with these two, making sure they don't get elimed by the likes of Astral. And Lizen instead is going to continue running through the Temple Vault. And it would appear as though refs and Trip were actually able to incentivize the opposing duo to actually leave the area. It doesn't seem as though they want to stick around for much longer. And that's the other note here, Shio, is that some of these teams not getting as frisky early on is what we've seen.
Want to stick in for that placement. It's the biggest guarantee. Marine, though, 11th place. And this might just be it for him. It might be wraps. No globals for you if you can't get past this wall. Still being hunted down 100. Builds left after that. Yeah, it's over. On to Kiro for the best 1v2 he could possibly have in his entire life. Going for it back and forth. Can't really find much. Has the mass to make this work, but it's done in 11th. Their spot solidified. They can't do much now.
Heartbreaker instances. But that's the nature of the game, the nature of the last chance major. And while it is unfortunate for the teams that don't find themselves inside of that top 9, for the teams that do, Shio, you have to remember, their work has really only just begun, because sure, you got your ticket punched to globals, but you're still in that lower bracket. You still got to work your way up.
So I want to make sure that the good games you play aren't just all finished today. They're not finished right now even. I mean, for Demon and Lucia, I mean, they can't really even focus on what globals is going to look like. They got to make sure they get there first. 180. Definitely not going to be enough to clinch you the whole way. Shots like that, though, consistently hit over the fact and duration of this game will get you to that spot. So good on Demon for sticking to it, making the best of every situation. And good on these guys, the Frizzy and Howley, for just having such a good day overall of Fortnite.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are basically confirmed already being in that 3rd place spot, just so many points up above the rest of that leaderboard in that top 3 position. But they're still going to play this one out as if they weren't qualled just yet here, Shion. It's consistency. It's that every game of practice that you can get in a set lobby that can make the difference for later on finals appearances like what they might see over at Global Championship.
Yeah, want to make sure you get this energy in, make it look all good. Vortex and Belusi in a similar spot to what we saw Demon. I think they're tied at 180 right now, so got to push up, get towards that 200 to 10 mark. Going to be tricky in a game like this, though. Looking at the zone is not going to be as punishing in general for the entire EU lobby. Might just pull down towards Mega City, Steamy Springs even. If you're in Slappy, you might have to rotate though. So for Belusi, finding some more shots somewhere else might be better than the majority of people coming in from the left side of the map right now. Cheating Pixie all the way up north, lagging behind where they need to be right now by about 50 points. You'd have a phenomenal game here, Taco, if they want to get towards globals.
For sure, but again, Cheatin and Pixie seeming to encounter the same issue that presented itself at the start of this lobby, and that's just the fact that so many of these teams being so close in those leaderboard positions, nobody really wants to peek their head out. Nobody really wants to try and force an engagement that they don't feel is necessary. So it's going to be all the more difficult to try and actually acquire some of that surge damage to stay above the threshold that we've seen plaguing so many teams and solos in the mid to late game.
Yeah, you got to be very, very careful. From Nuscard R. Eisen not going to be in this game for now, but over at first place, Clement should be good to rock on. Very good day from them overall. Tripping over to his cash. Looks fine, looks good. Just got to wait for it now. Him and refs, it's all just about making making the right plays over and over again all the way towards the very end and not wasting too many resources and too much time in every single fight.
They say hindsight's always 20/20 for a reason, but for teams like Refs and Trip, you don't want to find yourself in that position where you have to wonder, could I have played that better, or I know I could have done that better. Trying to present their best at every given opportunity, and that cash certainly a step in the right direction. Being right on the edge of zone as well should make it relatively easy for them to try and prioritize positioning if they're able to find damage that they need to, but they are a duo that we've seen not really struggling as much. Vexy, on the other hand, all the struggle in the world right now is a solo, trying to keep the dream alive right now for himself and Dabule, but getting the shields back up is only the start of a pretty big uphill battle when you've got teams trying to apply pressure from two separate directions.
Still got to be able to thread the needle here and make the right call. Just a little bit to go for Vasky and Hen. The deal's still popping off on the other side of the map, and that's huge for these guys to be able to just maintain that lead. Heavy's also taking down Della. We'll try to keep rolling in from this side of the map. So many different happenings inside this game so far. You just love to see it. I know, with the biggest health bar in the world too. Here's Curb. 195 with Fire Bro. There's too many teams that are tied up in these spots. This is crazy, Taco.
Can't help but notice as well that for Curb and Fire Bro, while they're right next to each other for the time being, Breacher Shotgun now going to be utilized from that hollow chest. Curb certainly going to enjoy having that one for later on, but it's teams splitting a lot of their focus. They're accomplishing a little bit of height with their sky bases, but they're trying to look in separate directions just for any sort of semblance of damage that they can look to apply elsewhere on the lobby, possibly even controlling how people are moving. But Mini Miner, he's got the real aerial view. So what do you got for us?
Well, let's take a little look at three teams who are on the bubble and need a good game to qualify. In order to try and do that, Lucy and Senna have actually switched drops. If you remember, they were actually going towards the Mega City area. Now they're going towards the sort of Naughty Nets area, a little bit quieter, a little bit less contested. So for this duo, they're playing things very, very safe. They want to make sure that they find themselves inside of that top 9 by the end of the day. Great stuff from this duo. And of course, off the back of a victory royale, we see Pixie and Cheatin. These guys, unfortunately for them, they haven't quite got the same success with the zone. The zone is playing very, very far south, so let's see if they can sort of maybe alleviate some of those problems. And of course, looking good for them though so far. They have some good Storm Surge tags, and I hope for them they'll be able to have a good game. A team that does get the zone though, it's Nipsey and CZB. They have an elimination early on here, which does suggest, along with their loot, that they did of course get that vault nearby. So they of course have those mythics and those slurps. So for these guys, they also need a good game. Let's see if they can do it.
Hopefully they can. I mean, the biggest thing so far for all three of these teams is they just need monumental type performances from the mistakes that we were making before, plus just points on top of that. So it'll be interesting to see if they can overcome the obstacles. That being said too, majority of the lobby kind of in the same situation in terms of stakes. At least the people that are sticking in here, a lot of these fights are some of the teams that are on the lower side of things, maybe in the 20th, the 30th place slots. And yeah, as a result, not gonna be too well in terms of staying in the game and going for late. When it comes to everyone else, they're really just trying to make sure they fix their mistakes, just like when he was pointing out.
Hard not to be excited though for a team like Nipsey and CZB. I mean, we've already seen Nipsey accomplish feats that no one has ever performed in the past. So if he can keep it going here today and actually find himself qualifying to the Global Championship later on this year, that would definitely be a monumental accomplishment. But again, still so much work that has to be put in from these teams to get there in the first place. And Trip and Revs seemingly looking for a little bit of a dead side rotate here, taking advantage of the river, the jet streams as well. Just trying to move as quickly as possible towards that edge of zone.
Want to get in fast, want to make sure they just avoid as many close fights as possible. That's where a lot of questions start to raise up in their minds, and they end up taking too much time and lose track of the rest of the game. Meanwhile, Reason Janus also just abiding the time dead side. I don't see white heals on Reason. Janus might have a med mist or a slurp to split, so it's all good. Reason still going for a few shots. Not too far away from zone either, so they can run in at any time. Top Rift Island claimed as well. Slowing down for now. A new team has just joined where they are on this island, though. Moving in kind of sneakily. I hope this is not trouble for Janus and Reason. I feel like there's so many people still in contention. Their spot is not guaranteed at Globals just yet.
Bit genius, though. Utilizing the campfire. Hey, if you don't have any white heals, don't need them. If you're able to take advantage of that campfire, but seems as though positioning now the priority there for Giannis and Reason. They've gotten enough heals thanks to that campfire, so instead they're going to look to move further in now. And for Lucian Steno, again, another team not too far away from that current edge of zone, but with two teams already likely to be based up on either side of them as they make their approach. Certainly a cautious one that Lucy's looking for.
Yeah, this is a spot we're seeing trips, and this card just beat a little bit too long of a spot. Spent it a bit, it's too many materials, and when you're at that spot, you want to make sure that you just finish up the fight, so you get all the materials back onto Bala and Alice Cod, though. Maybe, possibly the most important elimination and fights of their entire tournament and year so far has just occurred on their screen. This will set them up for the rest of the game. They have so much loot to be working with as well. So many mats maxed out on both sides. This is it. If they had a pedestal, they found it. All they need to do now is just thrive.
That's just Trevor hitting overdrive in the heat of the moment, and it's one that is certainly a necessity at this point. Because again, 15th place when they started game number 6 here. So refs and Trip, they know they have got to pull out a pretty significant performance here if they want to work their way into the top 9 of those leaderboards. And they are not the only ones looking for those points, looking for the placements. So every rotation, every zone closure is just going to be all the more of a pressure application to the entirety of this lobby.
Gotta be careful here. This is where things start to get tricky, where every decision you make makes you possibly run into a different duo as well. Vortex Belusi want to go through Kenjutsu, but there's already one team here on that top side. Heron farming up a little bit. Lucian Steno. Both these guys fighting for that qual spot. Nothing quite guaranteed just yet. Should be fine. They'll probably just end up staying here for a little bit. There is some metal down below, but I don't think it's pre-farm. It's just a floor drop, so not like they're waiting for it by any means. Lucian Sentinel will just be on their way. And then Vortex and Belusi, it'll be their turn after the fact. So not even looking to impede them by any means. They don't want to stop them in their tracks. Just want to make sure everyone is rocking as they do. Now they look for shots. Should be free. Double time. And that's good. Even more tags for the Bills. They can actually move on that now, because Sentinel has to heal. They have to go here. It should be quick speeds towards the right side. They have advantage on this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not as quick as you're hoping for by any means. Vortex and Belusi still a little bit hesitant, it looked like, to actually look to close the gap there onto Lucian Steno. A bit surprising, admittedly, that they would seemingly take their time on such a golden opportunity, but maybe they know something we don't, Shayo.
Possibly just being careful about things happening on the left or right side. Arco popping off in the feed. Demon down, unfortunately. He was one player that was in contention. Just tripping rush card again. The combination of these mammoth pistols are just insane. They find a Buell, and what a run that man's had. That last game looking so good for the duo. Now they're just stopped in their tracks. Every single time Refs Guard or Trippin will succeed for even one step, they crush some dreams into the spots that they are in this game. Every single duo that gets eliminated from here on out are potentially ones that could have made globals.
But for Lucia and Demon, that elimination could not have come at a worse point. Revs, Trip, gotta be careful, eating a decent amount of damage from a distance. Revs gonna be forced to drop into the water, just building for his life for the time being. It's gonna be a solo caught out on the island here, but Trip, one more time, hitting that overdrive. CZB will be taken out by the likes of Trip, and Launchpad utilized to try and get a little bit closer here, but there is so much damage from a distance. Vexy just imposing the pain now onto Revs and Trip, trying to make their rotation in, but it's going to be such a difficult one to come back from. They're having to expend so many of their heals.
We saw many talk about how CZB and Nipsey might have a lot of mythic loot and even some heals to be able to move with, so hopefully some of that's remaining for Revs and Tripper to use. Vexy, though, doing as much as he can to get some revenge for the duo going down. He's going to be tracking that duo. He knows that he's done some damage, and then they're not going to be absolutely looking this way. They've already cleared exactly where Vexy is. Vexy will have a chance for one shot. He has to aim for Tripper's body, and he has to land a headshot. That's the easiest way for him if he wants to take this engagement, do the biggest amount of damage. The thing is, though, if he just allows them to go, he can also move, and that's huge, but he gets tagged by a mammoth pistol from someone else on the left side, and I think Revs and Tripper might have heard that too. He's being chased, though. This is tough for Vexy.
Vexy, though, only 4 builds and barely any HP to work with. That's an immediate cleanup there for Corny. All too easy of an elimination. Not much to acquire, though, aside from those elim points in the first place. But for Revs and Trip, only thing on their eyes for the time being is to just keep moving forward. Giannis and Reason as well. A pretty prime spot, zone pulling relatively close to where they're already situated. So we could see them possibly looking to do a slightly later rotation. Whatever the more safe option is going to be for this duo. They don't have any eliminations yet, but they've been doing a great job as far as their positioning is concerned and making sure to stick close to one another.
Side by side, make sure you're on the same page too. Worst possible thing here is just going for just a little bit more and getting punished for it. Paco Yapko are finally moving on this beach too. What a nice time for this rotate, making sure they're blocking off the backside too. That was a risky jump for Paco. No wall on his backside, but it's all good now. They're moving in. Up top, Belusi sees them. Not gonna let him have it for free. Both players just dinked as they move in. Cheating Pixie beside them, 9th and 10th place, side by side, and more to follow behind.
But when you've caught the attention of the team on height, bound to alert some of those teams that are also on the low ground with you. So Paco immediately looking to reorient his positioning. An excellent job of tarping forward here for his duo Japko, and these two will just barely manage to climb their way into a slightly better position than where they were at. As far as Lucia is concerned, alongside Steno, a little sneaky link up here into a nice couple of shots. Those are the kinds of eliminations that you need in order to keep pushing yourself forward.
210 for Hen and Vasky. Hopefully these guys have enough to keep it rocking. Top slurps, they're moving. And they're looking good. Nice res from Hen. They still have to keep rolling though. Max zone pull, they've got the slurps to move, and they're gonna be on a little bit unstable footing. Hen though goes over, actually gets a little bit of pressure, distract shot so Vasky can actually live. Now they're both side by side, more slurps to pop. They have to keep going though. Zone is still moving, they cannot stop at all right now. Paco and Japko also moving as fast as they can. Built in the way and nothing inside their tray in terms of putting more walls down on the floor. It's just them, absolute bare bones. Have to mine a rock to just have a little bit of cover. Paco, his dreams about to crumble. Needs to find something. Has to mine through again. You don't have time to look back. You have to just keep mining forward. Scared of anyone beside him. Big shot though. Paco's gonna be stopped again at 184. Refsguard and Tripper still uphill battered, and it's just Refsguard now on the right side, and it's absolutely flubbed. This is just tough. 5 HP, slaps and missed, and no, 172 is where Refsguard stops.
And it's just not gonna be enough. Refs and Trip bound to already know their demise at this point, but the game's still going. The lobby is still popping for Giannis and Reason. They are just continuing to cycle through these high ground layers. Slap Splash gonna come forward now as Vortex, Belusi doing what they can to keep catapulting themselves forward. Take some shots at Hen off to the side. Edits, though, gonna be good for Vortex and Belusi. They maintain a decent spot here in the mid-ground. But they want shots to connect. Hen finding an elimination, actually, in the process onto Steno. That's gonna be a pretty big shot there, too, for Hen to close on, given that he's in a solo situation, but he will be taken out almost immediately. The ultimate price to pay, but the points that he acquired in the process might just be enough.
Might just be enough for the moment, but there's still so much more to go. Vortex, Belusi, still rocking in. 216, want to extend that lead as much as possible, want to be able to be in that qualifying range. All around, no builds, but they're making it look so good on all sides still. Vortex just living, trying to get as much placement as possible. Reason down, Janice down. Belusi popped before he died, it's all good. And now it's Vortex hitting even more, finally gone down. That's just tough. Now it's just the top 5 teams.
But Pablo, Bevies, they need this. They need a victory royale given their position heading into game number 6. If they can close this one out, we might just find them with an upset in the leaderboards. But still so much teams to work through. Pixie gonna be able to find a nice elimination there onto Yarko. Cheat and will go down as well to Cry. And now Pixie left as a solo on the low ground, trying to see if he can move his way through some of these pre-existing builds. Eats a huge shot off to the side. Will be forced to run around, but Pablo, Bevies, they've got height.
They're looking for it. This will be the win they need. Aiming for anything right now and jumping across to more builds. What a nice move from Pablo. They're gonna have to actually settle the difference themselves all the way here onto low ground. 2v1, no way they lose this one, right? We've seen it happen before today, though, for some teams. Big shots bleeding through builds as Bevy, alongside Pablo Wingu, are looking good for now. The crunch finally comes in, and Cry cannot survive a Game 6 win for Bevies and Pablo Wingu.
It's not even just the victory royale, but a relatively high amount of elims as well for Pablo and Bevies. It's going to be a close one, though, Shayo, because the math could potentially be mathing in their favor, but at the same time, things are just so close there for our top 9.
Absolutely. Every single team taking shots on each other, taking out each other's duels as well, going down so close side by side. Point totals, I mean, who knows what they are now. There were too many surviving teams that did too well in that game. Big for Pablo Wingu and Bevies to get their act together all the way in Game 6 and make it such a good one. Then to be a bit higher on the boards. That is just good for the team. What a good victory royale. I mean, overall today, Taco, this has been an amazing last chance major to watch.
Yeah, EU certainly did not disappoint as far as the last chance major is concerned. Every single one of these teams putting it all on the line here today to try and find themselves in that top 9 of the leaderboards. And granted, top 3 heading into Game 6, probably feeling pretty cozy, pretty confident. But for everybody else, basically a free-for-all.
Absolutely. That's been it, though, from Taco and me for the last chance major. Cool to see exactly who will be rocking over at Globals. As to who that is, Ian, Levin, and Takata have all the info.
Taco, Shayo, thank you so much for providing the lyrics to what has been an epic last chance major. I don't think I've ever been more excited / anxious to see a leaderboard in my life. But before we get there, Pablo and Bevies, Takata, they needed a strong performance on the last game of the day, and they delivered.
They got the victory royale, 208 points total for this duo. We can see how they closed it off here from the eliminations to the high ground retake to finishing it off in the end. But it just leaves us with that one question, Levin. Is it going to be enough?
Look, what I saw from this team in this game is what I'd wanted to see from them all day long. Just pure dominance, right? Aggression. And I think when they're in their element, they are a very, very fun team to watch. But again, is it going to be enough? That's the question we're all asking. I think looking at this game in isolation, it certainly is, you know, their style, right? That's how, if they're going to win games, it's going to be like that over and over again, rinse and repeat. So, yeah, I'm sure they will wish they could have done more of that. But again, fingers crossed they're going to that leaderboard.
We set the table at the start of the night. It is time now to reveal which of our 9 EU teams are going to Global Championships. For the final time this evening, let's take a look at the standings. We're all here on eggshells right now, and here's who's made it to the big dance, topping off the leaderboard. Vidil and Mr. Savage, and we've seen some serious movement here, Levin. Teams jumping up, some dropping down. What's your immediate thoughts seeing this list of 9?
Wow. Lucia and Steno making it in. They started the game in 10th place. They just needed to move up one, and it wasn't easy to do by any means, but they make it happen. Of course, Mr. Savage and Vidil on top. You know, that's what I wanted to see as a big fan of them. But, you know, that's neither here or there. All the players beneath that have managed to sneak their way in. Wow.
What a way to finish it off. Vidil and Mr. Savage leading the pack, though, in first place. This is what we were waiting for. Levin, Major 1, Major 2, Major 3, all the way to last chance. We have been waiting for this moment. They finally have got their early game situation overcome, overthrown, and that put them in the position to show what they are truly capable of, and it showed here today in the last chance qualifier with 321 points. First place, Vidil and Mr. Savage.
Look, it wouldn't be a global championships without Mr. Savage, baby. Come on, man. You know what it is. After coming one placement away in Major 2, he said, look, last chance Major, I'm not playing no games. First place, that's all I'm about. No messing around. And the big question now, right, with Mr. Savage making it through, right, we've got the biggest EU name making it through. Clicks. What are you doing, bro? Come on,
where's that name?
Clicks, you know what I'm saying? The battle of the blondes right now. You know what I'm saying? Clicks, you see Mr. Savage do it, you got to make sure you step up as well, my brother. But look, staying on EU for just a moment, so many props to Mr. Savage, man. This is an EU Fortnite legend. You have to put respect on his name. Every big event there is, Mr. Savage is going to be there. And he's going to do something. I don't know what it is, but he's going to do something.
You already know that there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of fans with huge smiles on their faces just to see this image right in front of us right now.
Guaranteed. I know the chat is screaming, let's go Savage, let's go Vidil. They are hyped. I'm hyped. The Fortnite community is hyped. They really showed what they were capable of.
And it's not just them. You know, like, we saw teams that really had to deliver, and they did. So, and the ones that made it, of course, they had to show that high level of consistency. And if they weren't necessarily consistent at the beginning of the night, Levin, they switched it up and went up a few gears as we started to close things out.
Look, what some teams have done today is not easy at all, right? I look at Hen and Vasquez and I go, a team that is newly formed, right? They've not played with each other before this. They had 1 day of practice, Ian. 1 day of practice. Vasquez, not the most experienced player in the world, calling mid-game, early game, and Hen leading in the end game. A new formula, but a formula that has worked, and we'll see them playing at Copenhagen. So happy for those two.
I'm excited.
I mean, sorry Takata to jump in. I just wanted to say, like, you alluded to it there. The fact that this is a fresh duo, Takata, and you never know which way that's going to go, right? It's like a fork in the road. It could go one way or the other. And luckily for these two, they created a bit of magic here tonight.
Right, it's like that honeymoon phase, right? When they just started playing together. It's been a success now as they've qualified, but, you know, the good news is now they have a lot more time to prepare for the Global Championships. They are in October, so they've got a bit of time now to build that chemistry as a duo. So hopefully we see that work being put in and we see the success being shown at the Globals.
Yeah, and another name that we've mentioned a lot, Levin, Howley and his duo. These guys were on fire all day long, and they thoroughly deserved second place.
I hope Howley's gained a lot of fans today.
Yeah.
He is ice cold. Ice cold. That guy do not miss. You give him a chance to miss, he's not taking it.
No.
He only wants to hit shots. That's all he does.
Literally. I mean, they looked unstoppable. From the solo clutch, which kind of lit that spark inside of Howley, to the chemistry built in the further matches. This duo were on a rampage basically the whole tournament and finishing in the top end of the leaderboard. They are some big names going to Globals.
Yeah, that's part of the fun, isn't it, Levin? Is, you know, for people watching at home, of course, you've got the big hitters, and like you said, you've got to hope that these players now have built a bit of a following who now have eyeballs on them going into GC and building a bit of a fan base. That's part of the process, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's all about that. A lot of these guys, they will be on top of the world right now. It will be the happiest Sunday they've had in a long time. I'll tell you that much. Look, I don't want to be a party pooper, though. I don't want to be a party pooper, but it is my job. It is my job to remind everybody. Although these guys have qualified, it's going to be harder for them than it will be for everybody else. they're going to start in that lower bracket at Globals, right? So as much as these guys have done great to make it, again, they can't get too high on the feeling of, we've made it, nah, everything's great. You've got to be on point. You've got to put in the work going into Globals.
Classic Levin, the old party pooper. Let's talk about third place. Kaizen and Clement, I mean, towards the back end in particular to Carter, they really started to find their form.
Yeah, I mean, this duo was on top of the world for a good part of this tournament in the first place spot. They were playing incredibly consistent. We didn't see a huge match come out from this duo, but consistency is what that got them to that top part of the leaderboard. And also chemistry, playing it out with the mindset of, I mean, you talked about it, Levin, going through the late game, 180, big shot. I mean, you know that they were able to do it.
Yeah, these guys are fun to watch, man. These guys are very, very fun to watch. I felt like when their backs were against the wall, they still managed to come up with the goods. And that's a sign of a very good team. It's a sign of an experienced team, which is what they are. Clement's been around for ages, so many grand finals appearances, not new to high-stakes situations at all.
It's cool because to make it, regardless of being in the lower bracket, all you want is that slot. All you want is that position. And let's be honest, if you're willing to go right down to the wire to make it, well, obviously not willing, you don't necessarily get into the last chance major by choice, but if you're willing to take that route and you get there, a lower bracket, Levin, I'm going to be unfazed by that.
Look, all they need is a chance at the end of the day. All they need is a chance. And look where we are today. It is literally the last chance. And they've shown that when given a chance, they will take it, right? So I would not be surprised if some of these teams here are the teams making big waves when it comes time for global championships, you know, on Championship Sunday there, because there is serious talent here. There are some big brains here. And overall, I think the showings we've seen here, like some of these lobbies looks more difficult than some of the grand finals that we've seen at times, right? So, you know, these games weren't easy by any means.
Yeah, Carter, I just want to say commiserations as well, of course, to some of the teams that came agonizingly close. For some of them, you know, it's back to the drawing board. But ultimately, there was 50 duos involved in this and only 9 spots available. So you're going to beat yourself up a little bit, but at the same time, you don't have to spend all night looking in the mirror saying what could have been. You can get right back on the saddle when the next piece of tournament comes your way.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredibly difficult. Even our Game 6 winners, Pablo and Bevies, from being contested in Major 3 Grands to now being on just the borderline of qualifying in top 9. It can be a bit heartbreaking, but also motivating at the same time. I know that duos like Pablo and Bevies have potential, have what it takes to make it, and hopefully they can use this motivation to keep pushing forwards.
Do you agree, Levin? If you didn't make the cut, you know, it's not. You don't need to beat yourself up too much here, do you?
I hope they don't. But the reality is, a lot of these guys are some of the most competitive people in the world. They will be their biggest critics, and I know a lot of them will be feeling down in this moment, right? You know, you work hard all year, you don't quite make it. But again, it's like Takata says, you have to bounce back. You have to just let this be a part of your journey, a part of your story, right? Who knows what's around the corner? Who knows what's next year? You want to have a chance to go back again. And, you know, as long as you keep a clear mind, a good mentality, there's always another opportunity.
All right, so on the flip side of the heartbreak, of course, we have the triumph. And I'm going to ask you both this individually. Takata, who really shocked you today? Who blew your mind out of all of the duos that made it through?
Look, I don't want to say shocked exactly as the word for it, but it was something I was waiting to happen, right? And it was the first place from Mr. Savage Vadil. From seeing them struggle throughout Major 1, Major 2, Major 3, to finally being able to be on-chained, unleashed, and show their potential. I love to see them competing to the level they deserve.
Levin, talk to me.
I think when I'm looking at surprises, I feel like Howley going as crazy as he did at times today was a surprise to me, right? I think you obviously have, you know, people who make their predictions coming in, and I don't think a lot of people had them at high anyway. But then to have, not just to qualify, but to have the kind of performance, to qualify in the way that they qualified, I think is very special and was a big surprise to me.
All right, we've said his name a lot here today. We've said his name in the pre-show. We said it throughout all 6 games. We did it in analysis here. And Mr. Savage joins us right now on the show. The EU Fortnite legend is in the building. You can see the silverware behind him, and I know that he's thinking, I want some more when it comes to GC. Mr. Savage, you must be feeling incredibly relieved.
Yeah, I mean, today I was pretty calm throughout the whole day, but it's definitely nice getting first place as well to secure the qual to Copenhagen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a statement win, right? Is there any part of you that's a little bit concerned about going into GC in that lower bracket, or do you think after getting through the last chance major, we've got this?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of time to improve before Copenhagen, so me and Mario are just gonna grind, and then it should be a pretty easy qual when we get to Denmark.
This Savage guy, you can't fool me. You know, he acts too cool for school. That kind of vibe, like he's ice cold. Nothing can worry him. I know your game, bro. I know your game. Look,
on,
I
bro.
gotta ask you, Savage. Throughout the year, people have been doubting you, right? They've been haters. Not me, of course. You know, I'd never doubt. Of course, I'd never doubt. But there've been people questioning, saying Savage ain't on the grind. He ain't working hard enough. Do you have anything to say for those people who didn't think you can make it to globals?
I mean, come on, look at me now, man. First place. We've been doing good recently, so yeah, just relax and then enjoy the show, you know?
I love it. Look, Savage, we know your history as a competitor, the most grand finals appearances out of any player on EU, but I want to know what's next now. You've taken that spot in the lower bracket of globals. What are you going to do to push forwards, make finals, and lift up that trophy?
I mean, yeah, as I said, me and Video are just going to keep grinding, and hopefully we're going to find a new job spot, because Naughty did not work out for us, as we saw the last grants. But yeah, there's not much else than that.
Yeah, you make a great point there, right? Naughty didn't work. Obviously, you switched to racetrack, and racetrack has helped you to qualify. But obviously, what's the mentality going into globals, right? Because picking a spot ain't gonna be easy. Are you down to contest somebody? Like, is that something you're against, or are you gonna try go for somewhere uncon, even if it isn't the best loot?
Well, I mean, I've been contested 10 grands now, so I'm a bit tired of being contested. So hopefully, you know, the best possible situation would be to get uncon. But yeah, we'll see with the new season what new POIs appear, and we're gonna go from there.
I love it, Savage. Now, look, when you're competing at this level and you're taking home these tournaments, I always see your community shouting you out. They're hyping up, Mr. Savage, Vidya, let's go. I just want to know if you have any words for them now that you've qualified.
Yeah, shout out my community, man. They've been so supportive. You know, even today, every time I check the Fortnite stream, they're all spamming like, let's go, Mr. Savage, let's go with you. So yeah, I love you guys. Thanks so much.
Right, now you can take that, you know, that breathe, that sigh of relief, knowing that you've made it to GC. How are you going to celebrate tonight? What's the rest of Mr. Savage night look like?
Ooh, I don't even have any plans for tonight, you know. So you know, I'll just do whatever I feel like doing and just enjoy myself.
All right, good stuff. Savage back on top. If anybody watching this doesn't follow you already, where can they find you?
Mr. Savage on all socials, Twitter, TikTok, everything, you name it.
Congrats, man, and best of luck.
Bye.